Okay, today I'm talking about changing from vertex form to general form. And I'm going to jump right in and make sure you understand some basics that you'll need to be able to handle. This is just plain old distributive. But sometimes kids get confused by this. When you take that times that, they know the answer's got a 12 in it, but then they say 12x. What should it be? 12x squared, that is correct. And the other part? Minus 15x is correct. Okay, good. This kind, multiplying it out, we've done so much of this on our top 20 that I'm not worried about you. You're going to nail these just first outside in, say last. That one, a lot of people just think, oh, just go x squared and 3 squared. Wrong. On this one right here, you got to remember that squared means what? Multiply by itself. So you need to go x plus 3 and x plus 3. You cannot do x plus 3 by just going x squared and 3 squared. It's got to go first outside, inside, last. And yes, there's an x squared in it. And yes, there's a 3 squared in it. But that's the very ending and the very beginning, and you're missing the whole middle part. The middle part, of course, is the outside and the inside, which makes a total of 6x. So don't forget that when you're multiplying out that kind. All right. These are quadratics. Quadratics, when you graph them, make a parabola. You remember that? You learned this in algebra, didn't you? I think you knew the parabolas. And if you're taking a quadratic, you can write it in 3 different ways: general, vertex, and factored form. So the general form is this kind. They kind of look like this. Y equals 6x squared plus 2x plus 1, where this lead coefficient, this number here, if it's negative, the parabola is upside down. Do you remember that? Okay, and how about this guy at the end? That's called the something something. Remember it? Y-intercept. Good, because the y-intercept is where? Fill in the blank. The y-intercept is where, what? Okay, this is really important. X equals 0. The y-intercept is where? X equals 0. Okay, so if I put in a 0 here and here, see how this is going to cancel all that? And the y-intercept just becomes that last thing? So it's not because it's the last number. It depends on the way the equation's written. What if it's written like this? Well, then when you say what's the y-intercept, you can't just say it's the last number. It's not. Y-intercept is where x is 0, so this cancels, and the y-intercept in this case would be 3. Okay, so anyway, back to this. This was general form, and it's the most common one. And it's got this is A, and this is B, and this is C. So you can put it in the most famous formula. X equals negative B plus or minus square root B squared minus 4 is E all over 2A. You know that one. Anyway, that general form. You know that one, don't you? Yes. Raise your hand if you've never heard that before. Holy crap, there's like 8 of you that never heard the quadratic formula song. That's sad. All right, well, we'll be talking about it more later. Vertex form is used mainly for graphing by hand. So basically, it's nice because it's got the vertex in it. This is useful in pre-calc. We just had a test on it the other day in pre-calc where I would say like this: y equals 3, x minus 4 squared plus 7. I'd say, what's the vertex? And it was like one of the easiest questions they had all year, because the vertex is just staring you in the face. It's right here. Except you have to do one bit of thinking. This part's the x, this part's the y, and so it's something comma something, but it's not negative 4 comma 7. Can anybody be a little smarter than that? Yes, sir. Why would it be 4 comma 7? Yes, he's saying that the standard form of this equation has a minus in it, and therefore it's the other number. Another way to say it is, remember how on the inside it's always counterintuitive? It's always opposite what you think. So this is the opposite of negative 4. It's 4. Okay? So the vertex on this is the opposite of this number, comma that number. Now, why is that handy? Because if you're going to graph it by hand, starting at the vertex, if I know the vertex is over 4, up 7, I can start right here. It's easy to make the parabola then. You just have to go over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4, over 2, up 4, and then you got your 5 points of your parabola. The only thing is this one's been stretched. So then, instead of going over 1 and up 1, I would go, what? over 1 and up 3, over 1 and up 3, and my parabola is much more stretched. All right, point is, there's different ways to write parabolas, and this is vertex form, and it's kind of better than the other form in one way. It tells you the vertex. By looking at this one, you cannot tell the vertex from this. You can't just say, oh, I can see the vertex. No, you can't. You can see the y-intercept, but you can't see the vertex. So to graph this, you pretty much want to use a calculator or an XY chart. To graph this one, you can graph it by hand really easy because I can see the vertex right there. It's 4, 7. All right, and then there's the last form, which is factored form. And the typical problem looks like this. Y equals 1, or maybe 2, times x minus 3, x plus 5. That's one of the reasons I've been working with you on that top 20 sheet on factoring, because factoring is going to be used a lot in this chapter. So if you're good at factoring, you already got half the chapter down. I think a lot of you are going to feel like, this thing's easy. Why? Because we did a lot of work on that top 20 thing, so you already know a lot of this stuff. So you're going to be feeling really smart this unit. All right. So anyway, that's factored. Do you get how if that 2 wasn't out in front, it would not be factored all the way? We've been talking about this. Some kids are like, why can't my answer of 2x minus 6 and x plus 5 be okay? Because it gets you the same thing as that. Well, this way it's factored. It's factored all the way, and I can see this lead number 2 here. That tells me the lead coefficient. That tells me A, and it's a stretch factor. So there's a lot of reasons why it's smart to factor that 2 up. Besides, this isn't factored all the way because there's a 2 in both of those. So you can't leave things like that. All right, moving on. Consider the transformation of the parent function y equals x squared. Basically, it's been moved. You see how it's been moved? It moved down and to the right. And so in the equation for it in vertex form would always look like something like this. Except A is a stretch factor, and I can look at this parabola and I can tell you if it's been stretched or not. Can you tell me if it's been stretched or not? Has it been stretched or not? No, because I go from here, I go over 1, up 1, and it works, see? If it had been stretched, it wouldn't go through 1, 1. It would go through like over 1, up 2. If it was going through this, then I'd know it was stretched. It would have been stretched from normal. But this one's not stretched. If it's not stretched, what's A? Nothing is different than 0, and therefore 1, yes, is correct. Y equals 1 times x, and that's where the vertex is supposed to go. Right here and here. And what do we just figure out about the vertex? Well, this vertex is at 3, negative 4. So how do I put that in? Do I put a positive 3 here? No. What do I put? Negative 3. It's the opposite of what it is. And then the other number, do I trust this negative 4 or do I change it to positive 4? Which one do I do? It's negative 4. So this other number would be minus 4. All right. Now, here's the only algebra you'll have to do. Write this equation in general form. I don't know if you recognize it, but once again, this is something from that top 20 thing that I expected you to practice. Remember how you take this part and you square it first? Then you'd multiply everything by 1. And then the last thing is to subtract 4. So really what we got to do here is go x minus 3, and you can't just square both numbers. You got to do this. And then subtract 4. Multiplying by 1 at the beginning here, that doesn't really do anything, right? So I don't need that 1. All right, so then I'd have x squared minus 6x plus 9 minus 4, and then the 9 minus 4 can go together and make 5. So there's my equation. All I did was multiply it out. So to get general form, generally you just multiply it out. All right, last thing. Find f of 7. I'm going to stick a 7 in. So I stick a 7 into this equation. Notice I'm going to put an empty spot squared minus 6 empty spot plus 5. That is a really smart way to do it. Constantly need that in pre-calc too. Use the parentheses. Don't just stick a number there and not have parentheses, because it makes a difference. Now I can actually multiply it out. Somebody have a seal in here or what? 49, got a seal for Thanksgiving. Negative 42 plus 5, okay? And then I got 7 plus 5, which is 12. There we go. I did that whole one for you so you could see what I was expecting you to do. Oh, wait. What is the vertex? Well, that's easy. 3 comma negative 4. And then the last, is it a maximum or a minimum? This spot right here, if you understand what the words maximum and minimum mean, you can tell me, is that spot a minimum or a maximum? It's a minimum. It's the lowest spot. That'd be a minimum. Okay, now I've answered all the questions it had. Now, there's one for you to try. Not there. Here. I'm going to give you the graph of it. Just a second here. Okay. And I have a parabola in there too. Hold on just a second. Confirm my parabola. There it is. And I'd like to put it right there. Try again. Right there. Okay. And I'd like you to tell me the answer to these questions. Number 1. Vertex. Number 2. What is vertex form of the equation? Number 3. What's general form? And generally, you just multiply this out. Once you find the vertex form, just multiply it out. And that's all the parts that were really important to me anyway. Find the vertex. What's the vertex form of the equation then? And what's general form of the equation? Give it a shot. There's 3 answers. I'll be walking around and seeing if you're getting it. I'll pause for a second while we do that. I'm thinking it'll take too long to walk all the way around the room and check everyone personally, but I'm going to have you billboard me the vertex. Everybody please just zoom in on the vertex and make sure that you get the vertex right. What comma what. I'll shoot them down as I see them. Close, but there's a negative missing. Yup, 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 yup. Okay, pretty much everybody gets a vertex. All right, now general form. Wait, vertex form. If you know the vertex is at 1 comma negative 2, then the vertex form should be easy for you. Y equals A, which you look and see, has it been stretched or not? Nope, has not been stretched. It's over 1, up 1, so it's not a stretchy one. You just have a 1 here then, and you go x and then squared, and then you put the vertex right here and here. And so you'd have negative 1. Remember, it's opposite of the first number, and the second number you keep the same. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, good. And then the last part is to actually multiply that out. That takes a minute. Go ahead and multiply it out. Remember, this part has to be multiplied out. You cannot do x squared and 1 squared. That won't work. That one I will walk around and make sure you are doing correctly. Okay, pretty much everybody eventually got it. It was x minus 1 times x minus 1, and then subtract 2. Quiet, please. Thank you. All right, so this one, don't forget the y equals. I'd hate to have to take off a half a point. That's half the credit. That's not worth it to save the time and not writing y equals. Remember the y equals. X squared minus 2x plus 1 minus 2, because these two make positive 1 when they get multiplied. And then when these two go together, the final answer becomes y equals x squared minus 2x minus 1. All right, good. All right, that's the basics of what you really needed to know. So if they give you the equation at the beginning, it's still the exact same thing. Find the vertex from it. It's easy. What's the vertex on that way? What's the vertex on this one? 3 comma negative 7. Good. And then is it a maximum or a minimum? That's a little harder without the picture, but just imagine it for a moment. They start out as a U shape, right? Did this one get flipped over or not? No. So it's a U shape. Therefore, what is that spot? A minimum. All right, and then find f of negative 2. That just means stick negative 2 into this. So negative 2 goes in right here, in parentheses ideally. and then you say negative 2 minus 3 makes a total of negative 5, and then you square it, makes 25, and then you subtract 7, so y equals 25 minus 7, and then that would become y equals 18, I think. Did I do that right? I think so. All right. So I think we've had enough practice on these that you're going to be fine. The only type we haven't talked about is the stretchy kind. Take a look. Stay with me. This 2 right there, that is a stretch. That means that this is not a normal parabola. It's stretched up. So the vertex is still here. The vertex is still at negative 1 comma negative 2. That's really easy to screw that up because you're not flipping that, but it's negative 1 comma negative 2. So it's right there. And I normally would go like this. Over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4. And that would be the normal parabola, but this one's not normal. It's got to stretch. So how do I do that? Instead of going over 1, up 1, if it's a 2 out in front, I go over 1 and up 2, because I'm going up twice as high as I normally would. Over 1, up 2. Over 2 and up 1, 2, 3, 4 is normal. This is not normal. This is going up 8. There. And there. So, final answer, be that parabola. In general form, generally I just have to multiply that out to get general form. Then the vertex, now that I got the picture drawn, it's really easy. The vertex is at, well, I could have seen it here, negative 1, negative 2. It is a minimum or a maximum. Well, since it's a U shape, it's a normal shape, it's a minimum. And the last thing is find f of negative 2. I'd actually stick negative 2 in here. Or, since I have a picture, what's f of negative 2? We did this on a test. F of negative 2, here's negative 2 for x. And then you say, what's the y of it right here? And what is it? 0. If you can do it off the picture, it's faster. If you want to actually stick negative 2 into this equation right here, you can. Put a negative 2 in there. And then you'd have 1. 1 squared is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. It works. Either way, you can read your picture or you can stick the number into the equation. All right, and that's all I have for you. Our 17-minute video is done.